Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be streaming today. Welcome to Becoming Awesome. And as you can see, it's a little bit different. I actually have my guest right next to me. We have the amazing uh, Kristian Scotty Haughton. I just call him Scotty. I'm your co-host, Ray Thomas. And what's up, Jenna? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Pretty cool you guys are together, and it's nice that we're showing people that we work both ways, virtually and in person. So, welcome to the hybrid version of Becoming Awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, I actually look forward to it. I think even with the new office that just opened up here in New York City, looking at the space, it's beautiful. I actually want to look into it and see if I can, have some sessions from there. Do the live tapings from the rooftop or somewhere out there. I think it's going to be really interesting to change the setup and dynamics. And also, I'll be over at the New York City's AWS Summit next week. If anyone's out there, just ping me. Would love to meet you as well. So again, we have Scotty over here. He's like a brother from another mother. We've been working together for the past
Nice.
few years. I wanted to highlight to him because when we talk about, you know, some of the awesome people that work here, it's not just some of the businesses that we support, but it's also our peers, our colleagues in recruiting as well, because we're not just recruiters, we're all leaders, and want to highlight some of the great work that he's done. And also being one of the rare people that's actually part of every affinity group here, at least supporting it, whether they're working day in and day out or actually an ally of it. So, Scotty, why don't you first just start off with just introducing yourself, a little bit about your background, and let's just go from there.
Sure. As Ray mentioned, I'm Kristian Scotty Haughton. I've been here at Amazon. It'll be 4 years on Saturday. The LinkedIn algorithm is all messed up. I know people have been wishing me happy anniversary for a whole week and a half. But yeah, the actual date is coming up. I've supported a lot of groups here in my 4 years at Amazon, but currently right now I support the Worldwide Specialist Organization, and I hire for sales, go to market, customer experience, customer success, and my favorite, solutions architecture. And I hire them across all of our bands here. So it's great work. And one of the things I find most fulfilling is, meeting with my businesses here in the office and just kind of seeing the organization I've helped build, right? The actual people here in the building and seeing them get promoted and move on to bigger and better things. Um, but before I came here to Amazon, I'm going to kind of roll things all the way back a little bit, Ray.
Hmm.
My career started after I saw a movie in high school called Top Gun. I was wowed by Top Gun. At the time, I was going to Brooklyn Tech. For those that are not in New York, there are a few specialized high schools here in the city. Brooklyn Tech is one of the three with Bronx Science and Stuyvesant. And at Brooklyn Tech, when you become a junior, you actually start to take on a major area of concentration, almost like college. And my major was aerospace engineering. So when I saw Top Gun, I was like, oh, I got to do that. And literally, as I left the movie theater, I went across the street of Fordham Road. For those in the Bronx, there used to be a Navy recruiting office right there on Fordham Road. I walked right in and I says, sign me up. I took the technical ASVAB, which I scored very well on. And I was a little bit naive, though. My recruiter says, you did well. How about this role with nuclear submarines? I was like, I don't want to go underwater. He says, how about this thing called cryptology, which I didn't know was internet security at the time. So I passed on that. And I was like, nah, cryptology, I don't know what that is. Not really my thing. I says, tell me, how can I work on F-14s? So he says, well, if you want to do that, you can. And I actually had a wonderful opportunity to spend almost 2.5 years out of my 4 years in the Navy going to school, learning electronics and engineering, and I actually went to Top Gun for enlisted personnel in Miramar, California, working on F-14 Tomcats. And that's what I did in my military career. And it was great. But after my 4 years, I really wanted to try something else, but I didn't know what. I didn't know if I wanted to continue on with aerospace and work for the airlines or do something different. I actually ended up in retail.
Right.
And I was a retail manager for Stearns, Bloomingdale's, general manager for Toys R Us, and for The Wiz, if anybody remembers The Wiz, and Labels for Less also.
What
And
about Crazy Eddie's? You missed out on Crazy Eddie's.
yes, the prices are insane. Yeah, they were gone before I was around.
He was gone too. Got arrested, I think.
Yeah, he wasn't a nice guy. Got to pay your taxes. But although I was successful in my career, I was the only like one of my friends that had like a job that was like 12 hours a day and worked all of the holidays. And I was talking to my father, who at the time was a managing director at JP Morgan Chase for their mortgage bank in HR. And he says, son, you're a wonderful salesperson. He says, you should go into recruiting. It's sales of an opportunity. And I was like, what? You can sell opportunity? So I quit my 70K a year job and I took a commission versus draw opportunity for an agency based out of Boston that had just opened a New York office, and I worked for them for 11 months. And I failed miserably. I hired like one person in the 11 months, but I really loved the work I was doing, even though I wasn't successful.
Right.
And I decided to go to another agency, which is either famous or infamous for those in here in New York. I won't say their name, but there my career blossomed. I was there for 4 years. And if you know anything about agency life, 4 years is a pretty long time to work in any one particular agency. But I remember my first year there, I billed over $400,000. And I was like super happy and excited. It was this fast paced, really exciting role and function. Technology was new. I remember we were hiring people for NT 4.0. This is way back in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gearing up people for Y2K. It was just an amazing time.
Right.
And one of my clients, a company called Globix, who I was one of my customers, actually hired me away from the agency. They was like, could you do what you do without using an agency? Because I think they had like over $1 million in agency fees from the previous year. And I was like, yeah, I could do it, but I don't know if I want to work for you. Like corporate recruiters are just like agency recruiters that can't hack it, right? But he said, no, we're going to build an internal recruiting model. And that was the start of my corporate recruiting career, and I've never looked back. So I've worked for Globix, which is weird because now I work for AWS. That was like the physical manifestation of the AWS model. It was co-location services, industrial strength internet for companies, where they could put their servers and get this great fiber connection if they didn't have one, and also have all the benefits of security of a data center. So now I work for a company where we do that with virtual resources versus physical resources. So it's really how things come full circle. But I also worked for companies like Thomson Financial. I worked in travel and hospitality for Hertz, and I worked in banking. I worked for Citibank, and now I'm here. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. That's it's like there's a couple of things that definitely resonated with me. I was on the agency side for a long time that I wanted to transition over, but I remember like the Y2K times preparing for that. So you're bringing back a lot of memories for sure. But again, now that you're here, you're not just a recruiter. You do a lot here, and I think some of us like Jenna, myself, and you, we want to showcase what life is really like, for some of the people that really demonstrate those true leadership qualities. So talk to us a little bit about some of the other stuff. Take the recruiting side out. What else do you do here?
So one of the big things, but there's a few things. Mentoring, I think, is one. I think my role here at Amazon, outside of being a recruiter, is to make an impact every day. I want to make an impact on somebody or something within this organization or outside of the organization. I have to make an impact on somebody. So that's my goal to do every day. What can I do? What can I share? How can I guide someone? Those are things that are important to me. So there are a few people over my time that I've worked with, and we've helped them with like they're writing their promo docs and getting them to the next level. Or maybe they were new employees and they were like me with the deer in headlights, like, oh my God, what did I do? Right? Because coming here initially is an exciting thing, but it can also be terrifying when you understand the magnitude of the pace and the scale of things here at Amazon. Give them some tools and guidance on how to manage that coming in as a new employee. The other things are really supporting the community and doing it multifaceted. First is our internal community. So yes, I signed up and get the newsletter for all of our 13 ERGs. But some I'm really more invested in than others, depending upon my bandwidth. But this week I was at the women's interns lunch. I was only one of 2 men in the room, but they need allies too, right? And although I know that it's for women, I think they might need to hear like the perspective of someone that's not a woman as well. So I was really happy to do that, made some great connections with people. A few months ago, or last month actually, I attended an event with Glamazon at the closing bell for NASDAQ, right? And
I put your photo up, on our flyer. It was like, there you go.
yeah,
It's actually one of my bucket list dreams, like to actually be on that Times Square
yes.
jumbotron.
So it was, but I told my mom one day I'll be in Lights on Broadway, so I got to make that happen. But additionally, though, yeah, I think I was able to impact a lot of people with that posting, right? To say, hey, yes, I support, our LGBTQ plus employees here and some of the things that they go through, because things they go through are the things that I go through as a Black male in America, right? There's this one that's gender related. Mine is one that's color related. They may be going through both, some of them. So I really want to support them. I also want to support, our military community. I'm a member of Warriors at Amazon. So, any of the nuggets that come through in that team, I like to spread them with my broader team, spread them on LinkedIn as well. If there's events that I can do, like wear blue to remember, or wear red to remember, I like to make sure I do those things as well. People may ask me, why are you wearing red today? Well, it's to kind of show support for our troops overseas.
So I have the red up today.
Right. So
being involved in all these, it's amazing that you're obviously really a curious person. And I wonder how like being involved in all these groups shapes you and shapes how you approach your work.
Well, I think it's given me a broader lens to kind of, number one, empathize with people. I think empathy in a role as a recruiter is essential. And empathy is not feeling sorry for people, right? But empathy is really more about, do you have an understanding of this individual? It's helped me with my listening skills. It's helped me with my approach, with my language. There are so many things. I almost feel like before I started this path, I was like a Neanderthal scraping my knuckles on the ground because I did so many things that were so wrong. And now I've come to understand a better way and a better approach. And I find that the conversations are much more open and genuine as a result. And I think, everyone wants to have, genuine conversations where people can feel themselves and feel welcomed. So I think that's one of the biggest impacts that being a part of all the different affinity groups has helped me on that journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. And you're a great example of putting yourself outside of your comfort zone and connecting with people that are different than yourselves. Do you feel that when you go to those meetings and you look different, that you have to explain why you're there, or are you just openly welcomed? Just trying to understand, because
No, Jenna, I have not really had like a whole lot of situations where I've had to explain. Maybe sometimes with my family, right? They're like, oh, I didn't know you were part of a LGBTQ plus group. I'm like, well, yeah, why not? Right. And I explained to them what allyship means, right? And they have a greater understanding of it. And hopefully now I'm able to help them show more empathy to others as well, right? And this is what I mean by having an impact on people.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only way to really be an ally is to learn and to understand. And sure, you can get some things by reading books, but really being in the room with people and asking questions and learning, trying to understand their experiences is really the ultimate way of being able to act as an ally.
Yeah.
Speaking of
for the
which,
right reasons too, and not for the right reasons, not for the badge, but for the right reasons.
Yeah,
exactly.
Speaking of allies, you actually have a few in the chat. You have Carla Rowe and Chrissy P08 say, "Let's go, Scotty and Scotty." So I don't know if you recognize those
Yes.
names, but
Carla's one of
welcome.
my favorite people on the planet.
Okay.
So majestic.
So majestic. If there's anyone else that knows Scotty, just ping, or if there's any question you may have, please definitely, ask away. We'll be happy to answer it as much as we can. I know we have only about 14 minutes left, so I want to make sure we, answer any questions that people have, but again, get to know you a little bit more. But like you said, allyship is a huge thing, right? You don't necessarily need to, be a certain way or think a certain way, but just respecting them and accepting them itself is is one of the ways to be a great ally.
Yes.
And like you said, leading with empathy is one of the great razor, and that's one of the things that I've always tried to make sure during the interviews is to make sure that everyone had a voice. Make sure
Yes.
that you remove every single bias there is, and make sure that we give people, a blank slate, to demonstrate their best qualities as best as they can. So
Agree.
just providing that space to be themselves, and then kind of give them that opportunity to shine. So see if they're right for us.
I have a question. I mean, I feel like I'm always trying to lead with empathy, go team money on that. That just was inspiring for me and reminded me that that's the way I try to approach things. But listen, we're human and the biases come up, and I have my ways of trying to just, bust myself and redirect when they come up. And it's a muscle to learn, and we have to teach ourselves, right? Being aware and coming up with different ways of just trying to see things from a different lens. So what about you? How do you manage yourself when those natural biases creep in? How do you manage yourself to act on the aware Scotty and not on the impulse Scotty?
Well, you made a great point. The first thing is awareness, right? Is understanding that, yes, you have a bias. We all have them, right? I think, especially here in the United States, I think we're people that like to put a label on something, stamp it, and that's what it is. But you have to embrace these biases so that you, number one, can understand them, and then give yourself time to reflect on them. Recently, I had a situation where I had a conversation with someone here at AWS that's non-binary, and it was a great conversation. We had a great lunch, and then I was reflecting on it in the evening, and I had to send this person a Slack message saying, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry that I called you she. Like, I think about it like 18 times during the lunch." And I was like, I'm so very sorry. And, I promise to do better. And they responded saying, "Hey, look, it's okay." And I, number one, love that you recognized, that you did these things, and it's not a big deal. The mere fact that you're working on them is all that we can ask. So it's never easy. It's not an on-off switch, but understanding how you affect other people and how you want to be treated, right? I think that's the biggest component that can go into making things as smooth and as seamless for everyone. But it's never going to be 100% perfect. It's something you have to work on.
Yeah, I believe that you obsessed over it 18 times.
Oh yeah, no, I totally did like 18 times. I totally did.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talk about like culture. I think last week we had our Globe Smart training meeting, and we talked about conscious and unconscious biases, and we talked about like what is culture, and then people put in like their thoughts, one word or two words, what defines culture. And I looked at it like it's culture is sometimes programmed unconscious bias, and that's how I really look at it. And that is what when Jen asked, like, what do you do to like kind of bust your own biases and everything else? I also know to try to take it a step back, regardless of how I feel, what my personal experience has been here or anywhere else. I need to step back and just listen with the blank slate, like I said, right? And just hear their voice, and then just go back and forth from there.
Yeah, listening skills are very important.
Yeah.
Active listening as I like to say it, right? Not just hearing someone, but are you actually, being super attentive, really understanding their point of view, where they're coming from, points they're trying to convey, and then responding in kind. And I think that's another point, kindness.
Yeah.
Kindness is not saying yes to everything, right? Sometimes kindness is saying no to something, or letting someone know that maybe something isn't right.
Yeah.
Being, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you just say, "Oh yes, everything's fine," you're not being kind to everyone. You're just kind of yesing them to death.
Yeah.
You have to know how to, use your voice as well.
Yeah. I look at.
And what about your peers? What about like when you immerse yourself in these different affinity groups? Is there anything in particular that you have learned about a culture that was an aha for you?
Yes, I could tell you, learning all of the different intricacies with non-binary, groups, that's been eye-opening. I mean, I've had, I have like 2 uncles that were gay, and I thought I knew everything about their lifestyle. No, I didn't even have a clue. I like barely the tip of the iceberg. Um, you know, really sitting down and breaking bread with someone that is non-binary. That's where I got my biggest and best education on everything. So you can't do it from the outside. You have to really be active and sit down with people and talk to them just like they're normal folks, and listen to their story, and tell them your story as well. I think that's the biggest part of, developing or working that empathy muscle, is by being open enough to share your story, where you come from, and then listen to someone else's story as well.
Yeah, and I see one T Money AWS. I know who that is. That's Taylor Murphy, who's one of the leaders here. She was actually previously our manager.
Love
She was
Taylor.
someone. Yeah, it's like Taylor's someone you absolutely like. If there's a problem with Taylor, it's probably most likely you. It's like that's the type of human she is. Like she totally leads with empathy. Really smart. Really just gets things done, but really knows how to listen and just try to help you think from a different perspective, right? And I think she's one of the people that helped made me better, and actually got me into the bar raiser program as well. And I think she's someone that I think again just made us better humans, not just here but outside. So appreciate you. So with that, I want the people to know a little bit about more outside of this. So we only have like 6-7 minutes left. There's some fun facts about you. So let's talk a little bit about your dancing. Quickly
All
talk
right.
about that.
So, when I was in high school, I was totally obsessed with this thing that is now 50 years old called hip hop. And yeah, I was one of those people that you see out on 42nd Street with the clap, 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 and we danced every day after school. And I would say the 5 or 6 of us made about $50 to $100 a day, every day dancing on tips. And then we would go to our little part-time jobs. So it was a big part of my life, which helped fuel my other passion, which is sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
Got to do something with that money, right?
How many pairs do you own, by the way? I know you're a total sneakerhead. About how many pairs do you own?
Well, I recently did an inventory because my wife begged me to move them to one part of the house.
Like my fishing gear.
Right now, I sit at 244 pairs of
Wow.
sneakers.
Yeah.
How many of them do you actually wear?
All of them.
Yeah.
You do.
Let me tell you.
So
you're sit on their
some of the
sneakers
only
and
few of them
resell
are the
them.
lucky ones to be worn more than twice a year.
Yeah, there'll be a couple that I favor a little bit more, but everything gets worn. Days like today, I'll pull out something that maybe is not one of my favorites. It was raining today. But yeah, everything gets worn. And then at the end of the year, I always donate at least 15 to 20 pairs to charity. There's a great organization. It's called Souls for Souls, SOULS for SOLES.
Mm-hmm.
Great organization. If you have sneakers, they will take your sneakers free of charge. You don't even have to pay for the mailing. They will free ship all of your sneakers back to a group. It's a really good organization.
That's awesome. That's really great that you're doing that. I know
Are you still
my wife.
dancing? Do you still dance? Do you still dance?
Yeah, me and my wife like to go and we like to shake our bones. We were at we went to 7 concerts between my birthday, June 7th, and current time. So yeah, we like to get out and move our bodies.
Nice. Couple of quick rapid fire question. You're a gamer. Favorite game?
Call of Duty,
Call of Duty. Which version?
Modern Warfare, the original is my favorite. You can't get anything better than that. Modern Warfare 2 is also good, but yeah.
Do you do any PC gaming?
I do. My favorite PC game is Command and Conquer Red Alert. I still play that from time to time. I like Age of Empires too, though.
So it's like Call of Duty. Diver's like, hey, some of us love COD. They made it real fun with some of the new things that you could do, like props, the props game. I don't know if you played that.
I always say gaming is where I figure out some of my most complex problems. When you're playing against a human, not an AI, you don't know what they're capable of doing. You figure things out. So it's problem solving.
I agree. I got my daughter into gaming very early on when she was 3 years old, got her onto Nintendo Switch just so she could fail, just so she realizes, hey, you can't keep on trying the same thing over and over, So again, the definition of insanity is do the same thing over and over and expect different results, right? So that helped her become more strategic and trying new things. And she's been like that ever since, even in her schooling. So I think gaming is incredibly important if done the right way and monitored properly,
Yes.
and at certain ages. So yeah, talked about AI. So ChatGPT. You and I were quickly talking about that. We have a couple of minutes left. How do you use it?
I like to use it to formulate ideas for things that I have. Right, I'm a good writer, but getting started is the hardest thing for me. I will stare at the blank page because I have perfectionist syndrome and I want it all right away. But ChatGPT and Bard, the two profiles that I use, will give me like a good meaty template for where I can kind of formulate my thoughts and build on top of them and make it my own. So that's generally how I've been using it.
Yeah, I think generative AI is such a huge topic, and actually next week's show is going to be huge. We have 2 people from SageMaker team. So one is an SDM, software development manager that we actually had in our pilot program last year at Ashish, and another principal product manager from SageMaker coming in as well. And we're going to talk about AI because this is a team that also helps build the platform for everyone to build generative AI tools, and given the demands of today and what everyone's looking to do.
My goal is one of these weekends in this month, I'm going to spend 4 or 5 hours and I'm going to unlock Bedrock, which is our product.
Yes.
See if I can get that going.
Now look at that. So we got Chas Witch saying Scotty is awesome and has a good heart. He has an awesome force. Bend New York Metro community team. He inspires us all. Charles, that's awesome.
Thanks, Charles.
Really, really great to hear that, and I'm not surprised. Jenna, are you surprised with people saying Scotty in the
I'm
chat?
Inspired. I've always been, of course. I love being in the office on the same times that you're there. I love listening to you. Your compassion comes out on every call, and your critical thinking skills come out on every call. And even when you're pushing back on things, it always comes out with respect, and it's very convincing because you use very logical rationale and data in your arguments. So I have a lot to learn from you, Scotty, and I look forward to continue learning from you. You have a big heart and you have a sharp mind, so you've got the right mix of being a great human being, and awesome to have you on the show so we can share that.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Great having you. And again, if anyone gets to meet Scotty, once you hear his laugh, it's the most recognizable laugh ever, and you can hear it down the hall. So,
Down loud.
So thank you again for coming. Appreciate you as usual, brother from another mother. Thank you all for listening in. And if you're into generative AI, next week you gotta watch that show. It's gonna be special. Talk to you soon.
Really excited about that.
All right. Take care.